Part 90. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 893. For some reason, the opponent's left eye made him feel worried from the bottom of his heart. This inexplicable worry aroused his ferocity. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot circled M. Does anyone still remember the demon sect? You really have hidden your strength. Do you do this to make the demon sect rise? It's ridiculous. Zhang Shendao seemed to have heard a big joke. The Dao demon sect is no longer what it used to be. There are almost no real ancient demons in the current god's domain. And his orthodox avenue is the most suppressive of the demon sect. His god-level totem is called the eternal god-level holy beast totem. The strongest power of this totem lies in its ability to transform into a Shinto holy beast to fight. The Shinto holy beast is a divine beast comparable to the god level, with sacred brilliance and the power to expel evil. Its light can bless all people and is an auspicious beast. Zhang Shendao was not going to transform. After all, it was a bit embarrassing to show his ultimate means to an unknown soldier like Lu Dingxing. One punch is enough to deal with you. In the midst of the attention of the crowd, Zhang Shendao suddenly jumped up, like a white whirlwind, suddenly appeared in front of Lu Dingxing, punched out, the air continued to make a sonic boom, the top source power burst out, forming a wave of fists, bombarding Lu Dingxing's forehead. Get out. The word get out showed Zhang Shendao's mood. He was a little tired of these so-called super talents from the totem world, especially Xuanhuan. The praise of the God King for him made others feel uncomfortable. Zhang Shendao understood that he had to show a better performance in order to have a chance to get the recognition of the God King. So he actually used all his strength in this punch. Boom! The power of a punch seemed to shock the earth. In fact, it was not at all. What people did not expect was that Lu Dingxing just stretched out his hand and directly pressed Zhang Shendao's fist. His palm was very big, so he directly held Zhang Shendao's fist and threw him out with his backhand. Such explosive power had a completely crushing effect. When Zhang Shendao stumbled on the ground and almost fell to the ground, in a mess, except for the people from Liangzone, the eyes of other spectators lit up. This is interesting. This young man is also not simple. People looked at each other thoughtfully, and most people on the Damo sect had become serious. Zhang Shendao, don't use all your strength, you can't hold on for 3 breaths. Lu Dingxing spoke in front of people for the first time. His words were difficult, but he seemed very cold, especially his voice was extremely heavy. Everyone can talk big, but you don't have the qualifications. Zhang Shendao stood up straight. He was already angry. He thought he would have an extraordinary performance, but he didn't expect such a bad start. He glanced at the Dao sect and saw the cold eyes of Dongyang God King. He knew that if he was arrogant again, his master would probably punish him. After scolding Lu Dingxing, he suddenly burst into a shocked roar, and a brilliant platinum light exploded from his body, forming a platinum sun directly on the Doshen arena, which directly swallowed him. This platinum sun was bright and holy, shining extremely. As the light shone, it quickly turned into a large white cocoon. At this time, the light of the white cocoon began to dim, and then it cracked directly. After the crack, platinum light shone out again. At this time, a giant beast with a human body appeared. This giant beast had a unicorn head, white scales all over its body, very strong, and sharp claws on its hands and feet. This is the ability of his totem, which allows him to transform into a Shinto holy beast. Of course, the real Shinto holy beast is a platinum unicorn, not his form combined with a human. But this form has the possibility of being more flexible. Whether it is blood or lethality, it has reached a terrifying level. This is Zhang Shendao's signature. Countless people have been defeated by his Shinto holy beast over the years. In front of this Shinto holy beast, Lu Dingxing, who was previously quite burly, became very small, as if this Shinto holy beast could chop him into meat paste with a slap. Die! The Shinto holy beast roared, and as expected, it directly suppressed with its giant body and landed on Lu Dingxing's head. Facing such an attack, Lu Dingxing had no expression on his face, but his body underwent a huge change at this moment. Unlike Zhang Shendao's way of cocooning, his flesh and blood body changed directly at a speed visible to the naked eye. For a moment, the devilish energy comparable to the vast ocean really erupted at this moment. His flesh and blood body directly transformed into a giant panda beast with a human figure standing upright, but compared to the real panda, he was much more ferocious at this time. He was not fat at all, and his body looked like a strong muscle in an instant. The majestic flesh and blood completely covered the sacred beast of the Shinto. This was the transformation brought about by his fighting saint demon evolution source. Although he still looked like a panda, in fact, his current fighting saint demon body was a flesh body comparable to Suyuxi's eternal supreme god body, comparable to the ancient god. In comparison, the fighting saint demon body would be more violent and more lethal, because now all of Lu Dingxing's combat power was on the flesh. Roar! When the blood-red and black ancient demon aura completely erupted, the atmosphere of the entire God King Holy Palace was completely different. The collision between the two giant beasts directly became the focus of the focus. A black giant beast, with blood-red lines all over its body, is as violent as a demon, full of visual impact. It is simply the most ferocious creature in the world. It is hard to imagine that it was transformed by a person. Such a giant beast must make Zhang Shendao tremble a little. His sacred beast of the divine way is brilliant, but at this time it is actually eroded by Lu Dingxing's demonic energy. The higher the way, the higher the demon. What the hell is this? Zhang Shendao trembled fiercely in his heart. He didn't know the fighting saint demon very well, but many gods present could see it at a glance. It is definitely a god-level totem, fighting against holy demons. Duan Mulian has probably been preparing for a long time. This totem is very rare and top level. The physical combat power it grants is very terrifying. It is almost the first god-level evolution source among physical changes. Amid the admiration of the ancient gods, the two giant beasts, Lu Dingxing and Zhang Shendao, collided and fought directly. This was a melee between the giant beasts. There was no discussion or moves at all. It seemed that all the confrontations were completed between the claws. This is not an equal battle at all. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 894. At the very beginning, the holy beast of the divine way was completely suppressed by the fighting holy demon panda, and it started to spin with a slap. Then the huge panda pressed up, and slapped its thick palms continuously, so that the holy beast of the Shinto could only the resistance looked extremely miserable. Under the suppression, his hands almost exploded, and the platinum gold scales on them completely exploded. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The pure strength duel is the most despairing. Zhang Shendao just took a breath and was about to get up when he was suppressed by the fighting holy demon again. This panda seemed to be harmless to humans and animals, but in fact it was so lethal that it made people tremble. Under his control, it was difficult for Zhang Shendao to move. He was immediately stunned. Bang bang bang. After a complete collapse, before he could react, his chest was torn open by the panda's claws. If you lose, I can take out your heart. In the violent fight, Lu Dingxing's deep voice spread throughout the entire Divine King's palace. This had already marked Zhang Shendao's disastrous defeat. It could even be said that this duel was a complete crushing. Lu Dingxing easily crushed Zhang Shendao. Shinto, Zhang Shendao at this time was completely unable to maintain the state of the sacred beast of Shinto due to severe physical injuries. In front of the fighting holy demon, he was as insignificant as an ant and could be crushed to death with one kick. This battle, like Xuanhuan's, started very quickly, but also ended very quickly. Both battles were almost perfect crushes. When Lu Dingxing returned to his original appearance and Zhang Shendao was lying on the ground, unable to react yet and even trembling a little, Lu Dingxing looked silent and said, "I accept." Even though there were other battles going on, there was still a dead feeling in the entire God King's holy palace. In particular, many disciples see things differently. This kind of dead silence can be more common in the Dao demon section. Most of them have stiff faces and are completely confused. It was clear at a glance what Zhang Shendao's status was in their hearts, but after such a being was crushed and defeated, many of them could not believe that what they saw was actually real. Awesome, Dao demon sect, there are so many talents at this time. The Holy Emperor smiled and started to applaud. His words were very sophisticated, and it would not be wrong to directly praise the Dao demon section. After all, both of them belonged to the Dao demon sect. For a time, many people were happy with Dongyang God King Dao, because with Lu Dingxing, the future of Dao demon sect would be more promising. Perhaps in this way, God King Dongyang can be given some face. After all, this is a challenge from Duan Mulian. In such an environment, Zhang Shendao got up with dull eyes. He wondered if he still had a chance, but when he saw Lu Dingxing next to him, he felt a trace of despair. This was the most depressing thing for him. You are the proud son of Tiao. Why are the people who have appeared recently, each one more terrifying than the last? He could only tremble and hide, return to the Dao demon sect's camp, and did not even dare to return to Dongyang God King. This defeat was a great shame and humiliation. The terrible thing was that he felt that he had no chance to make a comeback. This kid also comes from the Totem world. What's your name? If it's a Totem world again, then the Totem world is magical. Not only does the Forgotten Sword Master, there are also people like this. It seems we have to go to the Well of God's realm. Duan Mulian, please introduce me to the God King, King Du Shen said with a smile. Not only the God King, but everyone is now interested in Lu Dingxing. Yes, Duan Mulian stood up and came to Lu Dingxing's side. You have completed the task I gave you. Before he could say anything, the God King's words made everyone a little confused. You do it for me, God King said. Yes. Duan Mulian nodded, and then said to everyone, years ago, the King of Gods asked me to guard the ancient demon tomb, looking for the bloodline of the ancient demon god, so as to inherit the legends of many ancient demons in the ancient demon tomb. Some of you also know the secrets from those years. It is understandable that the demise of the ancient demon lineage is a special situation. The God King feels that it's a pity. It would be a good thing for the God's domain if someone could inherit the creation of the ancient demon. This young man named Lu Dingxing is the bloodline of the ancient demon god that I found in the Totem world. He got the ancient demon in the demon tomb. Approved by the seniors, he is now the heir of the ancient demon tomb. He made it clear all at once. Even so, many gods fell into shock. No wonder the demonic energy is flowing. It turns out to be the long-lost bloodline of the ancient demon god. There is no bloodline of the ancient demon god in the divine realm, but I didn't expect it to be found in the mortal world. Things back then were indeed a bit complicated. The God King left the ancient demon tomb behind, which proves that he was guilty of this matter. Now that he has found the successor, his wish has been fulfilled. Why did the ancient demon die? This matter is complicated and inconvenient for me. The God King won't let it be mentioned. Only some of the older God Kings actually know the true truth, and many of them are new God Kings. Since the God King doesn't want to let people talk too much, no one will talk too much. This young man has made it in one step and can become the heir of the ancient demon tomb. I think his future will be no worse than that of the Xuanhuan sword master. Wrong, this kind of inheritance should be better than the sword master of Xuanhuan. After all, this is the successor of our lineage of ancient demons in the God's domain. The rich heritage is beyond what you and I can imagine. The bloodline of the ancient demon god is absolutely rare and enviable. No wonder he can defeat Zhang Shendao at around the 8th level of the first god realm. After hearing Duanmu finish practicing, people looked at the God King, waiting for his comment on this matter. The God King was staring at Lu Dingxing at this time. "My child, the foundation of your soul has been damaged. It has no other effects, but does it affect your words?" God King asked. "Yes." God King Lu Dingxing raised his head and looked at the familiar face. When he first appeared, Lu Dingxing was also very excited. But at this time, even when he stood in front of him like this, he didn't react at all. Lu Dingxing's eye can only calm down. He and Zhang Zizai looked at each other, and he could tell from Zhang Zizai's eyes that he didn't think this was Zhang Junjian. Fortunately, there are no fundamental injuries. His performance is good and he can take on heavy responsibilities, God King commented. This evaluation is not complicated, but it is enough to give people a lot of ideas. I originally thought that Suyuexi and Suyanyu would have to become an ancient god to meet the requirements of the God King, but now it seems that Sukyanyu and Lu Dingxing are very possible, especially Lu Dingxing. That was a legend arranged by the God King himself. Let's retreat first. The scene has passed. Duan Mulian and Lu Dingxing retreated to the Dao Demon section. Dongyang God King and other top Dao sect experts were looking at them. After they returned, Dongyang God King smiled. Said, "Duan Mu, if you had let me know about such a big thing earlier, it would have made me happy. After all, the revival of the demon sect is also my important task." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 895. I didn't think it through, but this boy didn't achieve much before, and his foundation was not stable, so I didn't. Duan Mulian was on par with Dongyang God King in status, so he didn't need to be too respectful. It doesn't matter. It's the luck of our Dao Mo sect to have such a talent. Dongyang God King smiled. But it seems that other gods and disciples of Dao sect were not too happy. They had forgotten the demon sect, and now they are out of the habit. The strength of Sukyanyu and Lu Dingxing can be the biggest surprise of the God King feast. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Next, the duel between the disciples of all parties is still going on, and many young ancient gods also show their style. Although their strength is stronger, it is more difficult to achieve the effect of Sukyanyu and Lu Dingxing. During this period, Suyuexi also fought once, and this time she still defeated an opponent who was one level higher than her, so there were fewer people challenging her. She and Suyanyu were both talented, and even the God King himself praised them several times, but the embarrassing thing was that apart from them, there seemed to be no one else in the God King palace who could show off their talents in this God King feast. Feeling this embarrassment, Lin Zikan finally couldn't help it. He represented the peak under the ancient gods of the God King palace and stood on the fighting god arena to select an opponent who was enough to make him at least famous for the God King palace. As for being selected by the God King, he felt that he should not have this ability. What surprised Zhang Zizai was that the opponent he chose was Chu Yang of the Chu family of the Holy Emperor sect. This is the second talent under the ancient gods of the Holy Emperor sect, with the Green Lotus Fire 7 Yang Totem, and his talent is second only to his fellow brother Chu Ci. The 7 Sun Totem is considered very high in the history of the Chu family. Now in the entire Chu family, only Chu Ci's 9 Sun Totem and Lian Rishenjun's 8 Sun Totem are higher than him. Chu Yang's strength is said to be at the same level as Yun Wen and others. Lin Zikan also has a Shenjun level totem and the strength of the 9th level of the initial god realm, which is on par with Chu Yang. Moreover, he is older. In terms of talent, he may be a little worse than Chu Yang. He dares to challenge such an opponent. It seems that he has high requirements for himself, and it may be that he thinks highly of himself. Chu Yang didn't seem to expect that he would be challenged. He glanced at the challenger. Maybe it wasn't very big, but at this time Chu Si whispered in his ear, and Chu Yang nodded. He came out of the camp, walked onto the Doshen arena, and bowed his hands and said, "Brother Lin, please teach me. You are a straightforward person. You are qualified enough to fight with me," Lin Zikan said. "It's a pity that I think Brother Lin is a little short," Chu Yang said lightly. "What do you mean?" Lin Zikan asked with narrowed eyes. "No fun, let's get started." "Quick fight and quick decision." Chu Yang suddenly smiled. His smile was rather sinister, and in the sinisterness, there was a hint of cruelty. After receiving the other party's harsh words, Lin Zikan was slightly angry. His totem was the ninefold Earth Divine Martial Totem, and his realm had reached the 9th level of the initial God realm for many years. Although he could not become a god, his luck and combat power in this realm had already reached the pinnacle. The ability brought to him by his totem was called Ninefold Earth Shield. At this time, countless lights gathered from the earth and condensed on his body, forming a dark yellow transparent spherical shield, which was a bit like the demon lord cauldron that enveloped him, and this shield condensed directly to the 9th level. In the ninefold shield, Lin Zikan looked indestructible. The totem magic weapon in his hand was a battle axe. Lin Zikan's body did not look majestic, but the battle axe was very huge, domineering and powerful, with the power of opening up the earth. Turtle shell? Not bad. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and smiled. When he spoke, his body was already surrounded by green flames. The flames burned like a blooming green lotus. At the center of his eyebrows, 7 green suns shone with dazzling light. The green lotus fire burned on his body, making him look particularly ferocious at this time, as if everything in time could be burned clean. "I know your green lotus fire has a very terrible burning power, but it's a pity that I just restrain you, because I have a 9-level earth shield. You can't burn me at all," Lin Zikan said in a deep voice. He dared to challenge Chu Yang, not without basis. Chu Yang's totem power was indeed terrible, but it happened to be restrained by him. If Chu Yang was another totem, he probably wouldn't dare to choose him. Of course, it was also because famous opponents such as Xuanhuan and Zhang Shendao had been defeated. "Really? You are quite confident?" Chu Yang smiled coldly. He was now engulfed by the blue lotus flame, as if he was already a part of the flame. The power of this flame was indeed terrible. Zhang Zizai could feel the power of the calcination from such a distance. This was the flame born from the god-level totem, so it was naturally not simple. Among the flame-type god-level totems, the blue lotus fire can almost be ranked in the top 3. The evolution source that the sun-refining god gave to the younger generation was indeed very good. The two of them directly confronted each other in a brief confrontation. Chu Yang held a slashing knife in his hand, which should be a top-grade dry-level divine weapon. The slashing knife was filled with countless blue lotus fires. Chu Yang basically attacked, while Lin Zikan counterattacked. Lin Zikan really has some tricks. Zhang Zizai could see that Chu Yang's strength seemed to be not much different from his. In this way, it seemed a bit difficult to break his 9-level earth shield. It will probably not be easy for Xuanhuan and Zhang Shendao to break this shield, but this guy has a weakness. He relies too much on the shield. Once the shield is broken, he will be in great danger. Lin Zikan, who has the ninefold earth shield, is about the same level as Xuanhuan. Unexpectedly, when Zhang Zizai just thought about it, what he expected happened. When Chu Yang found it difficult to split the shield, he withdrew from the battlefield and bathed in the flames. "I didn't want to show it, but I can't break your tortoise shell." He shook his head and smiled bitterly, threw the slashing knife in his hand on the ground, and then looked back in the direction of the Holy Emperor Gate. At this time, Chu Si next to the Holy Emperor also smiled, and then took out a golden light from the space jade pendant. The golden light suddenly rushed out and turned into a golden bird. The golden bird burned with flames and rushed towards Chu Yang. It was the image of the legendary golden crow. This golden crow fell into Chu Yang's hand and turned into a golden knife, but it burned with green flames, which looked blazing and weird. God-level totem weapon. Zhang Zizai saw it. He really didn't expect that Chu Yang actually mastered such a weapon. You know, among the talents below the ancient gods he met, only Suyuexi and he had god-level totem weapons. Chu Yang was recognized by the god-level totem weapon, which showed that he was ahead of Yunhuan and Zhang Shendao. This is the Golden Crow Divine Sword. Now, Lin's Heekan's 9-level Earth Shield can't hold on. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 896. Even though he saw the Golden Crow Divine Sword, Lin's Heekan still looked like he didn't believe in evil. For him, the disciples of the God King Palace must have superior capital. They are the direct descendants of the God King, so today he must defend the honor of the God King Palace. Even if it is a special case, people can't look down on the God King Palace. The Holy Emperor sect has been booming in recent years, and the scale of its disciples far exceeds that of the God King Palace. The God King Palace is known for its elite disciples, while the standards of other sects are much lower. But if people surpass it at the level of elite, it's really a bit unreasonable. Thinking of the glory of the God King Palace on his shoulders, Lin's Heekan was like a chicken blood. He gritted his teeth, his eyes were extremely hot, and the prisoners in his hands seemed to burst out with more transcendent power. Break, he used the 9-fold Earth Shield as capital to avoid the burning of the Green Lotus fire. All the source power gathered on the battle axe in his hand, and killed Chu Yang in a rough manner. Facing Lin's Heekan's active attack, Chu Yang's face was indifferent. When he merged with the Golden Crow Divine Sword, the whole momentum suddenly changed. No school. Chu Yang smiled coldly, and suddenly burst out at this moment. Burning World Sword Classic. The power of the sword was fierce and violent. The majestic divine power formed a fusion of blue and gold swords. Even the air was burning wherever it went. The violent swords instantly hit Lin's Heekan's battle axe. Boom! Lin's Heekan exclaimed. He never expected that just such a confrontation would almost break the battle axe in his hand. This was a crushing at the level of the divine weapon. Of course, controlling the divine totem divine weapon itself is a manifestation of endowment. Just after Lin's Heekan was suppressed once, Chu Yang was completely like a mad demon. A person burned by flames appeared in front of Lin's Heekan. The Golden Crow Divine Sword in his hand slashed crazily. The domineering power of the Burning World Sword Classic was fully displayed. Sharp and scorching swords kept slashing on the 9-layer Earth Shield again and again. You are simply. Just when Lin's Heekan was very confident and was about to resist stubbornly, suddenly, the outermost layer of the 9-layer Earth Shield was directly torn apart. After the first layer was torn apart, everything of Lin's Heekan began to collapse. Under Chu Yang's very rough and continuous 9-time slashing, the 9-layer Earth Shield completely collapsed. Such a reality made Lin's Heekan unbearable. He knew best how important the power of this totem was to him. Now that it was broken, Chu Yang's Green Lotus fire rushed directly at the first time. Seeing that he was about to be engulfed by the Azure Lotus fire, Lin's Heekan's heart trembled. Chu Yang's strength had broken through his inner defenses. In a hurry, he hurriedly said, "I admit defeat." After that, he regretted it a little. He admitted defeat so quickly, but it was actually due to fear. He didn't expect that he was so timid, which made him doubt himself. Remember that before the battle, he was absolutely confident in himself. Now thinking about it, it was so ironic. What made him even more uncomfortable was that after he admitted defeat, Chu Yang still killed him with a knife, forcing him to resist with his battle axe. This last blow completely broke his battle axe. The sweeping Azure Lotus fire also forced him to resist with the power of the source. Even so, at least several parts of his flesh and blood were burned by the Azure Lotus fire, which was extremely painful. "I have already admitted defeat, why don't you stop?" Lin's Heekan said angrily. The loser, do you still have the face to talk? Chu Yang only said lightly at this time and put away the golden crow divine sword in his hand. The battle is over. The winner has been decided. Chu Yang from the Holy Emperor sect defeated Lin Zichen, the most promising person among the mortals in the God King Palace, and it didn't seem to take much effort. Chu Yang's words made Lin Zichen's face flush, but he had nothing to say. He was inferior to others in skills, so he could only accept the humiliation. He could only leave the god fighting arena quickly. Only by withdrawing could he resolve this embarrassment. But after returning to the camp of the disciples of the God King Palace, Lin Zichen saw too many disappointed eyes, which made him even more uncomfortable. He was full of confidence to challenge Chu Yang, but now he was really humiliating himself. The other disciples of the God King Palace had great hopes for him, but his defeat was so disheartening that they looked at Lin Zichen with strange eyes. I didn't expect Chu Yang to be so strong. It's not that he is too strong, but at present, in our God King Palace, there are not many talents under the age of 50, except for the two daughters of the God King. Indeed, people like Yun Zhao are actually considered talented, but they are not to the extent that people are amazed. Chu Yang was originally ordinary, but now it seems that he can control the god-level totem weapon, and he may be ranked in the top 5 at this age. Then there is no need to mention his brother Chu Ci. These two brothers are indeed the treasures of the Holy Emperor section. Senior brother Lin was defeated too undignifiedly. I've heard that Chu Yang is a man who won't give face to others. Just as the disciples of the God King Palace thought, after defeating Lin Zichen, Chu Yang did not leave the god fighting arena, but turned to the direction of the God King Palace and suddenly said, "I'm a little surprised." Apart from Miss Xuanhuan who has become a god and is hard to compare with her, there don't seem to be many people who can be called talented in the God King Palace. He can only be regarded as a child in front of the gods. The gods can smile at his provocation, but the disciples of the God King Palace can't. This is simply an insult to them. I haven't fought to my heart's content yet. Is there anyone in the God King Palace who wants to challenge me? If not, I will skip the God King Palace and look for other opponents, Chu Yang said. After this sentence, the people who were indignant just now shut their mouths at this time, because they all knew that they could not be Chu Yang's opponents. Xuanhuan wanted to beat him up, but with her current strength, it was meaningless. The other party did not despise her, but only despised others. Chu Yang looked around and thought that he would soon change his target, but he did not expect his eyes to suddenly lock on Zhang Zizai and said, "Brother Zhang, just now Zhang Shendao challenged you, you did not accept it, and let your brother take on the challenge. I heard that the talents from the totem world are quite extraordinary. For example, the progress of my junior sister shocked me for a time. Today, I am very curious about Zhang Zizai. I wonder if my performance just now is qualified to challenge you." His words were sarcastic, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his words. Such a straightforward provocation did not leave Zhang Zizai any room to dodge. As a result, many people were paying attention to Zhang Zizai's reaction. He had already refused once. If people were still a little curious about him last time, if he refused again this time, he would probably be regarded as a coward. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 897. As the saying goes, what is tolerable is unbearable. It's enough to let this guy be famous for so long. Chu Yang was too lazy to accept Lin Zichen's challenge. Zhang Zizai knew that by defeating Lin Zichen and provoking the disciples of the God King's Palace, he was actually forcing himself to fight him. As for the reasons, the first is because of Zhang Zizai's special status, and the second is definitely because of Shen Xiao's relationship. The last time they met with Shen Xiao, their brothers caught up with him and nothing good happened. Although they didn't talk about it, they definitely had a grudge. Also from the totem world, Su Qianyu and Lu Dingxing were both stunning. Zhang Zizai hadn't made a move yet, which of course aroused a lot of curiosity. But most people know that there can only be one Wangchuan sword master, and there can only be one descendant of the ancient demon tomb. Zhang Zizai is neither of these two, so he is destined to be different from Lu Dingxing Xuanhuan. In the midst of the crowd's attention, Zhang Zizai didn't hesitate, but took one step and walked into the God of War arena naturally. The God King only needs us to show off, so I don't need to think about any grudges, and no matter who the opponent is, I just need to show everything about myself. Zhang Zizai had already made up his mind. He was ready to face Zhang Shendao's challenge from the beginning, but it was more appropriate to leave it to Lu Dingxing. Now Chu Yang was one of the few opponents who could show his strength. Since you invite a fight, let's kill him happily. It was finally his turn. In fact, after seeing so many battles, he could no longer hold himself back. When Zhang Zizai appeared in front of Chu Yang, because of his specialness, he attracted more attention. After all, Xuanyu and Lu Dingxing both came from the Totem world, so people had some expectations for him. Of course, there will be more people with clear heads, especially those in the God King's palace who know Zhang Zizai's background and fully understand that his best record is to defeat Wei Jing, who was at the 9th level of the first God realm. And Chu Yang had no problem defeating more than a dozen Wei Jings. I don't think Zhang Zizai's strength is exaggerated, but to be honest, he is far worse than Lin Zihan. If he goes up, it will only make Chu Yang more arrogant. There is no one in our God King palace. He was sure that U11 had become a god, so he spoke arrogantly here. This kind of person is really human. Then what can we do? It's better that we fail to live up to our expectations and let him catch us. There is really nothing we can do. We were humiliated, but U11 and the others will ask the Holy Emperor sect for it back at the ancient god level. When it comes to talent, we will definitely have to watch the ancient gods fight. The God King will definitely give priority to those who have become gods. After all, he has not become a god, and his future is not certain at all. Who knows what the real prospects are? That's right. In history, there have been mediocre people who reached the 9th level of the first god realm at the age of 15 or 16, and even had a god-level totem, but they spent hundreds of years without becoming a god. Becoming a god has a lot to do with the heart. For example, our Suyuexi has become a god and is only a teenager, so she is considered the best one. They have basically forgotten Zhang Zizai and can only find some satisfaction and happiness in Suyuexi. Only Zhang Zizai himself has left everything behind. Everything in his heart is only the opponent in front of him. He has put aside the gifts of the God King, and thus walked into a world where only opponents and fierce battles are in his heart. Status. I hear you are very strong. Chu Yang raised the corners of his mouth slightly, his eyes burning with green flames. Generally speaking, the realm is only the 7th level of the first divine realm, Zhang Zizai said. Have you ever defeated the 7th level of the first god realm, the 9th level of the first god realm? Your way of bragging is quite unique, but it's not very creative. Chu Yang smiled coldly. Then what realm do you think I am in? Zhang Zizai asked. Still useful, he must have thought that Zhang Zizai had already reached the 9th level of the first god realm. Then don't do it. Just do it, Zhang Zizai said simply. However, Chu Yang still had something to say. He stared at Zhang Zizai and whispered, "We can see that you and Suyuexi are lovers. I would like to advise you here today. My brother will take good care of Shen Xiao. It's rare for my brother to meet the right person, so you'd better not cause trouble. Even though you are far away from the God King's palace, you can't make trouble." He had a real purpose. Inviting Zhang Zizai to fight now was actually a threat. Then you are wrong. Suyuexi and I are a couple, but Shen Xiao is mine too, and I want it too. Zhang Zizai squinted his eyes, with a smile on his lips. Are you serious? Chu Yang was amused. How can you deny it to a man? Shen Xiao and I grew up together. When we were in love, Your brother didn't know where to play with his urine, Zhang Zizai said. Oh Chu Yang put away his smile, his eyes blazing with fire, and he said, it seems that I have to torture you, and you may have other methods. Come on, I can't wait any longer, Zhang Zizai smiled. He was not Xuanhuan or Lu Dingxing. There was no way to scare him with words. Fighting with him would only make Zhang Zizai angry faster than himself. Just when Chu Yang was hesitating whether to use the Golden Crow Divine Sword to torture Zhang Zizai directly entered the fighting state. He had no intention of hiding his strength at all, because he wanted to show it to the God King. So at the first opportunity, he showed off his weapons. On his body, the Demon Lord Cauldron has emerged, and this shield looks stronger than Lin Zikan's 9 earth shields. Then on his right hand, the 33 Killing God mysterious weapons appeared. The complete 33 Killing God mysterious weapons were Zhang Zizai's strongest weapon, which could completely suppress the other two. After the appearance of this murderous black long sword, even the Golden Crow Divine Sword in Chu Yang's hand was dim. The black long sword in the right hand was full of murderous intent, and in the left hand, a blood-colored long sword appeared. The blood-colored long sword could make people see blood flowing into rivers, and the ferocious blood burst out, barely able to compete with the Killing God mysterious weapons. 3 kinds of God-level totem magic weapons. Can a mortal master so many totem magic weapons? When Zhang Zizai showed his weapons, many gods made exclamations. To be honest, even the gods of the God King Palace themselves did not know that he had so many abilities. At most, they just heard that he had defeated Wei Zheng. And they also knew that Xuanhuan and Lu Dingxing were rare. Even if Zhang Zizai came from the totem world with them, they were different and could not be compared at all. But at this moment, Zhang Zizai used 3 kinds of divine totem weapons to create an absolutely stunning effect. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 898. In front of his totem weapons, the Golden Crow sword was dim, especially the 2 swords, one black and one bloody. He held a pair of long swords in his hands, which looked extremely strange and murderous, especially the Tai Chi Yin Yang fish in his eyes turned at this time, showing extreme indifference. Chu Yang was stunned for a moment. In his original cognition, Zhang Zizai was much weaker than Lin Zikan. But now, this guy seems a little difficult to deal with. He could only say, in fact, if you are weak, no matter how many god-level totem weapons you have, it will not be of much use, because you can't use them at all. Before he finished speaking, Zhang Zizai looked indifferent and launched an attack directly. Endless black lightning burst around him, wrapped around his body, and then quickly swept away, turning into a black thunder pool, covering the surroundings, making the entire Dushan arena full of his lightning. The next moment, his initial demon dragon transformation was revealed, and endless black dragon scales and bone spurs appeared, making his appearance look more like a ferocious fighting machine, and the 2 swords in his hands looked more tired, like a nightmare. The upright Chu Yang seemed a little weak in front of him. The great Chaos Thunder God Flash's body movement allowed Zhang Zizai to kill in front of Chu Yang in an instant. He swung out a sword with his left hand, and the blood prison sealing sword chi swept over. The sword energy that was like a blood river surged and arrived in an instant, which forced Chu Yang to use the Golden Crow Divine Sword to kill out the Flame Sword aura to resist. Bang! Just one confrontation did not show that Zhang Zizai felt any powerlessness in the face of Chu Yang. On the contrary, he seemed very strong. Such a scene directly attracted the attention of the whole audience. Zhang Zizai knew that the God King was watching his performance. Really have some skills, Chu Yang was stunned. Just, some, Zhang Zizai smiled coldly. All this was just the beginning. Chu Yang realized that he had to concentrate on the battle, so he started burning with a more majestic blue lotus fire. The 7 suns at the center of his eyebrows shone brightly, and the blue lotus grew bigger and bigger. The range of the flames quickly engulfed the entire Dushan arena, leaving Zhang Zizai with nowhere to go. Now there were raging fires everywhere, and the burning of the blue lotus fire was so severe that even the white jade on the ground could not stand it. However, people saw that Zhang Zizai was completely unharmed. The totem power that was very scary to others was temporarily ineffective against him, because his demon lord cauldron had the same effect as the 9-layer earth shield. At least for a short time, the blue lotus fire could not burn. Another tortoise shell? Then break it for me, Chu Yang laughed loudly. After the blue lotus fire oppressed Zhang Zizai, he killed him directly and attacked again with the Burning World Sword Classic. That was how Lin's Hekan was defeated. Zhang Zizai can't stand it anymore. Lin's Hekan couldn't help but say in the direction of the God King Palace. But then, everything did not develop as he imagined. Under Chu Yang's oppressive fighting style, Zhang Zizai moved in the green lotus fire with terrifying body movements. At this time, 2 invisible blades were entangled on his 2 swords, and these invisible blades gradually merged into 2 different sword auras. At the moment when Chu Yang came to kill, Zhang Zizai completely merged with the power and invisible sword aura of these 2 swords. Infinite, time-breaking blade. With one sword, the blood prison sealing sword aura rushed out and instantly arrived in front of Chu Yang. He, Chu Yang laughed coldly and broke the blood prison sealing sword aura with the Burning World Sword Classic again, but this time, the breaking had a completely different effect. At that moment, he clearly broke the sword aura, but it seemed that he was completely hit, and he couldn't move at all for a moment. At the moment when he was completely stagnant, Zhang Zizai's other attack had already arrived in front of him. It was a black sword formation, which contained endless violent sword auras. These sword auras were immortal and covered his head. When they appeared, it happened to be when Chu Yang was fixed. But in fact, this is not as simple as the Great Chaos Immortal Sword Formation. Zhang Zizai has recently learned to integrate the power of the infinite space-time totem into the battle tactics. Just now, it was the fusion of the blood prison sealing sword chi and the infinite time-breaking blade. The power of both can be retained. Now it is the fusion of the Great Chaos Immortal Sword Formation and the infinite sky-splitting slash. The fusion of these 2 powers can be called an unprecedented critical strike. This critical strike, especially when the infinite time-splitting blade has already controlled Chu Yang, even if Chu Yang moved at the last moment and frantically resisted with the Burning World Sword Classic, but the lethality of the Great Chaos Immortal Sword Formation plus the infinite sky-splitting slash still swallowed him directly. For a moment, even the Golden Crow Divine Sword flew out, and the violent force almost tore Chu Yang into pieces. Chu Yang was completely stunned at this time. The fear of death made him tremble completely, and he had no idea how to deal with it. At this moment, a golden light pulled him back. When he woke up, he was already next to the sun refining god. Even so, there were still dense sword marks on his body. The severe pain only started at this time. Fortunately, the elders hurried to heal him. But until this moment, he was completely stunned. Guy, the feast is just a competition, but you are going to kill people. The sun refining god had a cold face and his voice was full of oppression. Reporting to the sun refining god, the god has misunderstood me. I was about to withdraw. Chu Yang and I have no grudges, so I will not mess around. The god can rest assured. In fact, Zhang Zizai did not stop at all. He just knew that someone would definitely save him. Everyone could see it, but since he spoke, the sun refining god was not in a good mood. It was not until the end of the conversation that people realized that Zhang Zizai had defeated Chu Yang cleanly and neatly. Wow, brother Zizai is so powerful, Shen Xiao was stunned. He stared at Zhang Zizai for a while and couldn't help but speak out, which directly attracted the attention of Chu Ci and several other elders beside him. Ju, you have a good relationship with him, Saint Emperor asked with interest. Chu Yang was defeated, but he didn't seem too unhappy. After all, he expected that Chu Yang didn't have the ability to get the grace of the God King. Reporting to Saint Master, I grew up with him. He has taken good care of me since I was a child, Shen Xiao explained. Haha, interesting. Saint Emperor nodded, and didn't say anything else. He glanced at Chu Ci and asked, what do you think? This man's totem ability is a bit scary, Chu Ci said. That's for sure. Infinite time and space, among the god-level evolution sources, at least he can be invincible in the world, Saint Emperor said. Such praise, but Chu Ci lowered his head slightly. Saint Master, I'll go visit my brother. Go. In addition to this place, people who talked about Zhang Zizai at this time could be everywhere. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 899. For example, there are a lot of discussions going on in the Temple of the God King. For example, on Yun Xiao and Lin Zikan's side, the disciples of the God King's palace were filled with astonishment. Such an unexpected surprise left them speechless for a while. Some time ago, he didn't have this kind of strength. Wei Jing said with a sigh. Lin Zikan had provoked Zhang Zizai, and now this fact made him even more embarrassed. When other disciples felt the pleasure of revenge, he could only hide behind him, so maybe it wouldn't be so embarrassing. At least he could tell that from now on, there wouldn't be too many people in the God King's palace who despised Zhang Zizai because of Suyuexi. This fact made him feel uncomfortable for no reason. He looked at Suyuexi again and saw that this proud girl had a happy face and was chirping with the King of Gods. He felt even darker in his heart. Suyuexi was indeed happy. She almost jumped up and said, Dad, look, I think he is very powerful. In fact, he is not at the 9th level of the first god realm. He was at the 8th level of the first god realm last time. The power of the source is very strong, the level is very high, and the understanding is transcendent. Half a year ago, he was only at the 5th level of the first god realm. He is really powerful. Okay, Dad understands, don't offer any more treasures. Suyanyu smiled. Actually, he can only have this strength because of my good teaching as a divine master. Sister, please stop asking for credit. You are incompetent as a divine master, even the slightest bit. 11 Suyanyu gave her a warning look. Suyuexi immediately thought that she still had the leverage with Taixu God King, and quickly changed her words, well, in fact, sister has also worked hard. In short, Zhang, it's great to be comfortable. This made her very happy. She glanced at the superior God King, who seemed to be listening to her words. As soon as she finished, the God King asked, half a year ago, was he only at the 5th level of the first god realm? Suyuexi was a little nervous and said, yes. How does he progress? Asked the God King. That one made some progress in the God King battlefield, and the others seem to be in the ancient God Tower. He sees the creations left by those seniors and they seem to be making breakthroughs all the time, Suyuexi said. Understood. She was just telling the truth and believed that the God King would make a judgment. All his progress is in the ancient Tower of Gods, King Dushan asked. Yes, Suyuexi said. He and the God King looked at each other. I believe they can see what the other person is thinking. As quasi-God Kings and God Kings, they are the ones who know the ancient God Tower best. Many disciples can enter the God Tower, but not there is something good for everyone every time. He doesn't have the Wang Chuan sword or the ancient demon tomb, but he can have such speed. This in itself shows that at a certain level, Zhang Zizai has talents that no one can match. The God King nodded, looked at Zhang Zizai, and said, you're not bad either. Although you don't have the Wang Chuan sword and the ancient demon tomb, there should be something about you that can shine. Thank you, God King. Zhang Zizai nodded. It was actually a bit weird to talk to a person who looked exactly like his brother like this. He could only forget that this was his brother's appearance. After the God King finished his comments, he should go back. After all, one performance almost showed all of himself. As for the God King's decision, that is his own business. To be honest, there doesn't seem to be much point in continuing to fight, because no matter how hard he fights, Zhang Zizhe only has these trump cards. There is no other way to play. His tricks are already very terrifying. The 3 god-level totem weapons, infinite time and space, the first demon dragon transformation, and the extraordinary power of the source of destruction have all been displayed. Just when he thought this, there was suddenly something in the distance behind him. Zhang Zizhe, don't go back in a hurry, are you interested in fighting with me? Zhang Zizhe turned around and saw that the person speaking was none other than Chu Ci, a figure with the 9 yang totem of the Chu family. He was the most terrifying opponent in this realm, similar to Xuanhuan before becoming a god. His status in the Holy Emperor sect is much stronger than that of Chu Yang. Of course, he was also the one pursuing Shen Xiao, and Chu Yang just took action against Zhang Zizhe on his behalf. After his younger brother was almost killed by Zhang Zizhe, it was completely reasonable for him as a brother to invite Zhang Zizhe to fight for his breath. As one of the 2 most anticipated people under the ancient gods, Chu Ci has this qualification. He is much stronger than Chu Yang. He is the target of the Saint Emperor sect's full training. With the personality Zhang Zizhe has shown, he will definitely join the battle. This way, it seems to be more interesting, and this will definitely be a more interesting battle. But what people never expected was that Zhang Zizhe suddenly smiled and said, "It's not necessary, I have already demonstrated all my abilities to the God King. If you feel that I just defeated Chu Yang and made you feel uncomfortable, you want to avenge him, let's fight another day." Chu Ci sneered and said, "Are you just a coward and a coward? If you do this, your servants will look down on you. Whatever, you challenge me while I'm in a bad state after a fight, so you look down on me," Zhang Zizhe said with a smile. In fact, he really didn't have the confidence to deal with Chu Ci. There was something in Chu Ci that Chu Yang didn't have. He had something special, and he had indeed shown his abilities to the God King. Fighting against Chu Ci would not be possible at most. Being a stepping stone for him to show off his strength is indeed of no benefit at all. Ridiculous coward, Chu Ci laughed dumbly. Since Zhang Zizhe didn't want to, he didn't bother. The servants will naturally have comments. Sure enough, even those at the Divine King's palace seemed a little speechless when Zhang Zizhe came back directly. They looked at each other. "You can actually give it a try, maybe you can beat him," Yun Ziao asked. "I don't want to," Zhang Zizhe said. "I'm not laughing at you, I mean, if you do this, others may think you're a bit cowardly. After all, even if you lose, it doesn't matter. If you don't dare to fight, someone will definitely gossip," Yun Ziao said. "Let them be, I'm not the kind of person who cares about other people's gossip," Zhang Zizhe said with a smile. In fact, from the beginning, many people had criticized him, and they didn't expect him to have any ability. Anyway, it was like this, so he didn't care about the opinions of mediocre people. "Okay." Yun Ziao could only nod helplessly. She looked at Xuanhuan, only to see the girl stand up and angrily scolded, "Chu Ci, you have the guts to challenge me, what's the point of sneering here? If someone had your cultivation resources, he would definitely be 10 times stronger than you now, how can you be here to show off your verbal advantage?" Her protective attitude was very cute, and for a moment, all the gods present burst into laughter. Actually, to the gods, their provocations and ridicules were just the leftovers from their youth. Now, they seemed quite interesting, but they would not participate in them. Chu Ci had already retreated. He really did not dare to challenge Xuanhuan. The ancient gods and mortals seemed to be separated by a thin line, but in fact, they were worlds apart. At this time, another beautiful voice sounded. It turned out to be the lovely Rao Jiying. She said in a baby voice, "Brother Chu Si, let's fight. If you don't fight me, I will have no one to fight with." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 900. Chu Si invited Zhang Zizai to fight but was rejected, and Suyuixi ridiculed her again, which made her feel a little angry. Just at this time, Ji Yingying's milky-sounding challenge came. Even if the milk sounds milky, sweet, and soft, it is still a challenge. Although Ji Yingying's appearance and eyes are innocent, there is no doubt about her strength. When Suyuixi becomes a god, she is recognized as the only one who can compete with Chu Si at the level below the ancient gods. Zhang Zizai saw this soft girl again. She felt very similar to Qi Yuan. She had a figure with waist and hips, and she had a cute face, big twinkling eyes, and a really innocent face. The appearance formed a very exciting contrast, and I am afraid that many ancient gods and kings would look at Ji Yingying a few more times. You don't need to know that Ji Yingying must be a heartthrob in Yanjai Zingai. "Brother Chu Si, are you coming?" Ji Yingying stared at him with her beautiful eyes and said again. Come. Chu Si was not confused by her appearance and posture. Instead, he was very calm and serious. Perhaps he had already regarded Ji Yingying as his biggest opponent. Knowing him well, he would definitely not let this girl be like a white rabbit. His appearance deceived him. Another heavyweight showdown. Even though they are not ancient gods, their battle is still more attractive than other ongoing battles because of their special identities. In terms of talent, these two are definitely the top of the young disciples present. When they reach Suyunyu's age, they will be able to reach the same level as her without any accident. One represents the Holy Emperor sect, and the other represents the Evernight Star Sea. After Suyuixi became a god, only the two of them were often compared. Now they must be guessing who of the two can become a god first. After Ji Yingying entered the fighting god arena, people almost forgot about Zhang Zizai. The suspense of the confrontation between the two of them will be more attractive. In the eyes of many divine kings, they are also very promising candidates to be selected by the divine king. At present, it seems that the performance of young talents below the ancient gods at this god king's feast is actually even more amazing, with figures like Zhang Zizai, Lu Dingxing, and Suqinyu appearing. A man and a woman both have high hopes from their respective sects. Brother Chu Si, please don't be too rude. You should be gentle to others. It's just a normal sparring, and they'll take it easy, Ji Yingying said with a milky voice. No need, just use your full strength. Chu Si did not accept her soft tactics. That's so dangerous, Ji Yingying pouted and looked scared, which made me feel pity for him. But Chu Si had fought with her before, and he knew that she was one way now, but when the battle started, she would be another way. Zhang Zizai is also very curious about the combat power of these two people. He has now been able to defeat Chu Yang, Zhang Shendao, and others, so he is a little curious about these two guys who are said to be stronger than others. Before that, Zhang Zizai had also studied their information. The two of them are indeed very close to becoming gods. For example, Chu Si must have a god-level inheritance. His totem is called Mixed Holy Fire 9 Yang Totem. Mixed Holy Fire is also a source of flame evolution, similar to Qinglian Fire, but in terms of level and power, Mixed Holy Fire is stronger, which is known as the evolutionary source of the first flame in the god's domain. After possessing such a totem, Chu Si can possess the first flame in the god's domain. In addition, his 9-sun totem can strengthen the Mixed Holy Fire to the 9th level. When it really breaks out, this Mixed Holy Fire 9-sun totem is much more powerful than his younger brother Chu Yang's Green Lotus Fire 7-sun totem, which is also a divine king. Level totem, the gap will be huge. At this time, the light golden flame burning on Chu Si's body was actually the holy fire. This extremely burning flame had spread and gradually enveloped the entire fighting god arena. It's so hot Ji Yingying was a little confused. In fact, she did it on purpose, because she smiled after finishing it. At this moment, Zhang Zizai saw the position between her eyebrows. Her totem turned out to be a black hole. As if the totem is evolving, but in fact Zhang Zizai knows that this black hole is her real totem. When the totem rotated, a black void cave appeared behind her. The black cave began to rotate, exerting destructive sucking power on everything around it, like a black mouth in the void. Ji Yingying was right in front of this huge black hole. Of course, she herself was motionless. Even under the black light, she looked a little weird at this moment. Her totem in this matter is called the primordial black hole totem. Her black hole totem itself is a very rare totem in the god's domain. With the source of evolution like the ancient primordial, the ancient power of the ancient primordial is integrated into the totem, forming anew the black hole presented by the totem is even bigger and has a stronger sucking power. It is like countless hands from ancient times, pulling everything in front of the black hole into the center of the black hole. Zhang Zizai really found the reason why Chu Si was afraid of Ji Yingying. It had to be that a totem like her was very difficult to deal with. She could swallow anything, and if she was not careful, she might have to get involved. In fact, Chu Si was originally prepared to deal with Ji Yingying after defeating Zhang Zizai. Now go all out and follow his plan. On his forehead, 9 suns burned blazingly. These 9 golden suns manifested themselves with the power of the totem, condensed with mixed holy fire, and appeared around him, forming 9 golden suns surrounding him. These 9 golden suns are the gathering of the holy fire. At this time, they explode with infinite power, rivaling the huge black hole opposite. The manifestation of the power of these 2 totems has actually surpassed the battles of the ancient gods in other battlefields. No matter how powerful the ancient gods are, they don't have totems of this level. The 9 suns and the black hole, one is burning, the other is cold, and they counteract each other. Chu Si is radiant at this moment. He is the peak talent of the ancient Sun Chu family for countless years. He has enough confidence to grow. As long as he becomes a god, there will always be one of the future god realm under him. His achievements must at least exceed the current refining sun god. He has the highest expectations for himself. Before the battle, when the 9 suns surrounded his body, he shone like a golden armored war god. At this time, a weapon appeared in each of his hands. These 2 weapons are like swords but not swords. They are like 2 short square pillars, but they have an incomparably dignified and bright power of judgment. Just one look will give rise to awe in the heart. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 901. This is a very valuable divine totem weapon, named Piercing the Sun Divine Mace, which is Chu Si's signature divine weapon. He mastered this divine totem weapon a long time ago. The power of this Piercing the Sun Divine Mace is much stronger than his brother's Golden Crow Divine Sword. People often say that the twin brothers should have 8 yangs each, but Chu Si took away Chu Yang's 1 yang, and the rise and fall of one made him have his current extraordinary strength. The 9 yangs of the mixed holy fire surrounded his body, holding the Piercing the Sun Divine Mace. At this time Chu Si was like a living sun god. Of course, his opponent was not to be outdone. Ji Yingying floated in front of the black hole, and a silver whip appeared in his hand. The silver whip was like a silver snake, and it was also like a river, with shining stars all over it. If you were hit, you might feel like being hit by countless stars. This is also a divine totem weapon, named Galaxy Whip. Galaxy Whip has a very long history in the Eternal Night Star Sea. It is said that the current Eternal Night Star Lord used this Galaxy Whip when he was young, and its power is indeed amazing. A galaxy, endless stars in hand, doesn't it mean that you can smash anything you want? When Chu Si and Ji Yingying showed their totems and divine weapons, Zhang Zizai did see that they were a bit outstanding and stronger than Zhang Shendao and the others. Su Qianyu and Lu Dingxing may have the strength to fight them, but it is basically unlikely to take them down. The fact that the two of them can easily defeat their opponents has something to do with the fact that the other party despised them from the beginning. At this time, these two proud sons and daughters have already started fighting directly. Brother Chusai, don't let Yingying get sucked flat. Ji Yingying giggled and looked very relaxed. She wandered around the edge of the black hole beside her. The black hole rotated during the battle, generating a terrifying attraction that even swallowed up the spirit energy of the gods. Chusai, who was in the fighting arena, was naturally greatly affected. He Chusai sneered. The 9 golden suns around him were still getting bigger. After condensing more and more mixed holy fires, the 9 suns had a diameter of 3 feet. Chusai controlled them and approached Ji Yingying. At the same time, he attacked with the sun-piercing divine mace, directly threatening Ji Yingying. His attack could be domineering and fierce, but it was still affected by the ability of Ji Yingying's totem. The attack of the sun-piercing divine mace was distorted, making it difficult to really hit Ji Yingying. In addition, he had to face the mysterious whereabouts of Ji Yingying's galaxy divine whip in the process. Qinkan Naranju. This is the battle tactics used by Chu Si. His piercing sun divine mace is integrated with endless chaotic holy fire. When it is used, the effect caused by the piercing sun divine mace can even cause the distortion of the universe, and the lethality is huge. But if you can't hit the opponent, no matter how violent the attack is, it's useless. Ji Yingying is difficult to deal with in this aspect. She used the river whip technique. The speed of the galaxy whip was very fast, and it was almost impossible to see the flesh body clearly. It was as if countless galaxies of stars and rivers were sweeping around. If it weren't for the 9 suns around him that also had the function of protecting the body, Chu Si would have been crushed by Ji Yingying long ago. In the sight of everyone, the 9 suns and the black hole kept colliding, the galaxy whip and the sun-piercing divine mace kept fighting, Chu Si and Ji Yingying flew and evaded, and the fight was very thrilling. Although Ji Yingying looked soft at ordinary times, in fact, she was very fierce and elusive in the battle. If you were not careful, her neck might be entangled by her galaxy whip, and your head could be twisted off directly. Chu Si was careful enough, and Ji Yingying was afraid of the 9 suns. Once she was hit, she would probably be burned and seriously injured. The power of the mixed holy fire was also not a joke. Both of them were very afraid of the opponent's attack. Such a thrilling battle actually just reflects the transcendence of the two people's level. Even if they are peerless talents, there are still levels. At least for many gods, they can see that at this level below the ancient gods, these two can be called supreme figures. In fact, in terms of totem talent, Chu Si and Ji Yingying are a little higher than Suyuexi. Zhu Yang and Black Hole are both very terrifying. This is the terror of the natal totem itself. If they can grow to become a god, these two people will be even more terrifying. If the God King only looks at talent and potential, these two people are even more worthy of consideration than Suyuexi, because Suyuexi is just a god in advance. Dongyang God King of Dao Mo Sec said. People are indeed watching the battle and evaluating at the same time. But why do I feel that Lu Dingxing will definitely be selected? No matter how high your talent is, can it be compared with the bloodline of the ancient demon god? Duan Mulian asked lightly. That's right, Dongyang God King did not refute. Even if he was only the leader of Dao sect, he would not refuse if he needed Dao Mo sect to be united sometimes. At least it was much better than Dao Mo sect being completely out of the game. They need such a big picture. The battle continues. Zhang Zizai could see that their fight was very thrilling, exciting, and fierce. Both of them fought cautiously and breathlessly, neither of them let the other side take advantage. In a blink of an eye, they had been fighting for a quarter of an hour. The other battlefields were almost decided, but they were still in a stalemate. "Brother Chusai, you can't beat me yet, which makes me look down on you," Ji Yingying chuckled. "You are so talented, it's not easy to beat you, you don't have to be modest," Chusai said coldly. "Don't be so fierce to me," Ji Yingying said pitifully. "Haha, I don't buy it. Brother Chusai, do you think she's not good looking?" Ji Yingying said shyly. While using the Galaxy Divine Whip to attack fiercely, he seemed to be shy and attractive, which seemed to be a skill. "I'm not interested in girls at all," Chu Si said righteously. "It seems that she likes the majestic Shen Xiao, not this cute and playful girl. But others don't." Ji Yingying straightened out her chest, which was so full that it made people feel bloodshot. Chu Si didn't even look at it. With his status, it wasn't like he had never seen a good figure since he was a child. Women were all the same to him. What he wanted now was the gift of the God King, which made him very sober. You must not let your opponent affect your state of mind. Kill. He shouted a word and continued to attack fiercely. This incomprehensible look made Ji Yingying angry, so he stopped talking and completely entered a cold fighting state. The two of them went back and forth, fighting for another quarter of an hour, until both of them were pale and exhausted, and when the winner could be decided at any time, a voice suddenly sounded beside them. "Okay, no need to continue, I can see clearly." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 902. This is the voice of the God King. With his status, he must have seen it clearly a quarter of an hour ago, but he does not object to giving a little more time. There is really no need to continue the battle for 2/4 of an hour. The God King doesn't need to see the outcome at all. He just wants to see what level each Ran is and what potential he has. Through this battle, he knows Chu Si and Ji Yingying like the back of his hand. However, both Chu Si and Ji Yingying were a little unwilling. They both felt that they were about to defeat their opponents. Stopping at this time, they felt like they were dying at the most intense moment, but this was the arrangement of the God King after all. After thanking them, both of them were much lazier and returned to their respective lineups. "Both of you performed well. Each of your totem abilities is very promising," the God King unanimously commented, and it was hard to tell who he was more partial to. This comment was a little heart-wrenching because it didn't seem as special as Lu Dingxing and Suqianyu. "Actually, it's not bad. At least your talents have been fully demonstrated," the Holy Emperor said. "Will the God King choose me?" Chu Si asked nervously. "I'm not sure, it depends on what the God King does," the Holy Emperor said. "So far, there are many people who have performed very well. No one knows who can enter the eyes of the God King and what kind of people the God King needs. Even the King of Gods didn't even count it in his mind. He knew that his daughters were outstanding, but compared with other outstanding talents, it was impossible to guess how the God King would choose. Even the God King may not choose anyone, it is his own wish anyway. Now that Chu Si and Ji Yingying have gone to war, in fact, the most outstanding group of people in the entire Divine King's holy palace, whether they are mortals or ancient gods, have already finished their performance. There are still people who have not shown up, so the God King is still giving opportunities. There are still people fighting fiercely in the 9 fighting gods arena, but even if it is a battle between ancient gods, because the age of the participants has no advantage, it is not very attractive. At the ancient god level, at Xuanyu's age, she was already invincible. At Suyuixi's age, she was also the same, and could even compete with opponents in their 30s. The second level of the ancient god realm is almost no match for Suyuixi. By this time, many god kings may know that maybe the God King has a certain answer in his mind. When it is about to be revealed, even the quasi-god kings are a little nervous. What happened to the God King this time was extraordinary. He personally trained him. What a blessing it was. It was even a bit like the God King recruiting a disciple. This was something that had not happened many times since ancient times. In the midst of everyone's expectations, the God King was silent for a moment, and suddenly said, "There are some people who haven't played yet, but I know them in my heart. Next, the people whose names I read will come to me." Hearing this, some of the people who didn't play couldn't help but feel extremely regretful. Some wanted to beg for mercy, but they were pulled back by their elders. Their respective elders knew best how much they weighed. From what the God King means, does he want to directly announce the chosen person? This is revealed, and many people are not mentally prepared. The God King was high above, in the midst of everyone's attention, and said, "First of all, here at the God King's palace, Xuanhuan, Xuexi, Zhangzizhe, Linzhikan, Yunziao." As a result, he called out at least 7 or 8 names in a row, including Linzhikan and Yunziao, who did not perform very well. After hearing so many names, people knew that the God King should still be there before the announcement. Other arrangements. "Let's go." Xuexi came to Zhang Zizai's side excitedly. Regardless of everyone's opinions, she directly took Zhang Zizai's hand and walked out. She was an ancient god. If she pulled him by force like this, Zhang Zizai wouldn't be able to get rid of him. So he could only be controlled by this domineering woman and let her drag him away. "Hey, pay attention to the impact," Zhang Zizai said with a headache. "This is the Overlord's bow." "What? My ears are not very good and I can't hear." Xuexi turned around and smiled coquettishly, holding her hand tighter, for fear that others wouldn't know that Zhang Zizai was like her. They walked in front of the God King. At this time, the God King began to read the names of people on the other side of the Saint Emperor's Gate, at least including Shen Xiao. As soon as Zhang Zizai came in front of the God King, another woman appeared next to her. She stared at Xuexi and asked, "What are you doing?" The person who asked the question was none other than Shen Xiao. "You don't have to worry about it," Xuexi said. "I don't know how ashamed you are. In front of everyone, you actually look down on my brother Zizi," Shen Xiao teased. "It's better for this girl to know how to save herself." "It's just frivolous, what can you do to me?" Xuexi winked. The God King spoke very quickly. Within a short time, dozens of people had gathered here, including the recipient Chu Yang. The two brothers stood not far behind Shen Xiao, looking coldly at the two beauties. Zhang Zizai gathered around, winking. "It makes people jealous. Does this brother have any special ability that can make two beautiful sisters jealous?" At this moment, a beauty appeared next to her. It turned out to be Ji Yingying from Yanjai Xingai. She blinked and looked at her with big eyes. Looking at Zhang Zizai, his curious expression is very cute. Xuexi immediately became interested. After all, Ji Yingying was also a talented girl with a reputation far and wide. Her legendary childlike appearance had fascinated many men. "It's okay for you, go back to your territory." Even Xuexi didn't bother to be polite to the girl who was once compared to her. The woman's intuition was accurate. She hated Ji Yingying at the first sight. "Yeah, what does it have to do with you?" Shen Xiao also rolled his eyes. "Don't be like that. I just want to get to know this brother. He looked so handsome when he defeated Chu Yang just now." Ji Yingying admired. "Ahem. It seems to be a very pleasant thing to have 3 beauties surrounding me and watching them fight for my favor, but why do I feel a little headache?" Sure enough, I found that many people looked at me with strange eyes. They probably suspected that I was carrying some kind of spiritual medicine that could attract the attention of beauties. Fortunately, the God King rescued Zhang Zizai. He sat at the top. When he gathered some people who performed well together, he only needed to cough, and these dozens of people would immediately shut up and wait for him to announce his decision. It was still a very tense time. The God King actually stood up. A set of boxing techniques, watch carefully. These 8 short words have a thrilling power. Under the impact of this power, even Suyuexi immediately let go of Zhang Zizai's hand and entered a serious state. On the high platform, the God King did not waste any words. After he finished speaking, he bent his body, took a horse stance, and clenched his fists. This posture is completely the posture of a mortal martial artist.